Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the November Metro North Long Island Committee meeting, commuter rail. Do we have any public speakers? Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Distinguished members of the MTA Board, Metro North and Long Island Railroad committee members, my name is Joe Messina and I'm the Vice President of Sales for New York State Industries for the Disabled, Inc., a New York State preferred source organization that provides job opportunities for individuals with disabilities. More than 6,000 individuals with disabilities are employed through this program through the various government contracts we hold. It is through employment that the individuals we serve gain the independence and sense of purpose to which we all aspire. Although we have had successes through this program, there is still much more work to be done. Disabled individuals are unemployed at a rate of 70% nationally and even higher in New York State. For the past several months, NYSED and Metro North have worked very closely in negotiating a contract to meet the MTA's agency-wide personnel services needs. This contract, which is to be presented to the MTA Board this Wednesday, will create over 100 jobs for disabled New Yorkers. On behalf of these individuals, I thank you for giving us the opportunity to meet the MTA's procurement needs for this vital service. Our collaboration with the MTA in providing bona fide work opportunities for disabled individuals is well into its second decade, and we look forward to building upon this long-standing relationship. I would also be remiss if I didn't thank MTA, Metro North procurement staff, starting with Senior Director Bombase, and a special thanks to Ms. Reggie Adulio for her professionalism and dedication throughout this entire project. I would just like to say in closing that I wish you all Godspeed in these difficult and challenging economic times in continuing to make New York City's mass transit system the best in the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Nice to get a positive thing.
Yeah. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, members of the MTA Board. My name is Orrin Getz. I represent the New Jersey Association of Rail Passengers, and I'm a regular commuter on the West of Hudson services. First thing is, I would really like to thank President Howard Perma for helping me get a phone line installed in Grand Central. After I spoke to him, the phone line was installed within a few hours. That was great. And I say, if President Perma ever wants to retire and start a new profession, I've got some great contacts over at Verizon for him. So thank you very, very much. Also like to say that one of the high points is the service, the performance we have on the Pascagoula Valley Line Express train. It always runs on time. It's a pleasure to ride. It'd be very nice if some of the people here would take a ride with us one day and see how nice it is. It's also interesting that this morning the train was powered by a 4100 series General Motors, or AMD, GP40 PH locomotive. It's 42 years old, and it's still providing reliable service, which is quite a bit better than the super steel locomotives that the Long Island Railroad has. If New Jersey Transit can keep 42-year-old locomotives going, I think the Long Island Railroad has something to work on. And the other thing I'd like to comment about real quick is the Long Island service, Long Island Railroad service east of Ronkonkoma. It's really a disgrace, to say it that way. The Pascagoula Valley line, the line I ride, is going through a less dense area, and for the first time I can say we have better service. And that's something. If your service there is so poor, it's really a matter of concern. And I'm reminded every day of this because when I walk out in front of my office at 3rd Avenue and 40th Street, there are all the Hampton Jitney buses there lined up taking passengers to the eastern end of Long Island and doing a much better job than the Long Island Railroad. And that's not the way it used to be. When I was used the Long Island Railroad years ago, we had much better service on the Port Washington line than you do now. Far better service. And one other final note I'd like to say is the security here, coming in as a speaker into this building, is really a matter of concern. Not only did they check me out, but they opened my wallet and went through it. And that's way beyond what security needs. I was recently in Ben Gurion Airport in Israel, where security is extremely tight, and nobody went through my wallet like I was done right down before I came to this meeting. To me, this is just a simple matter of intimidation to try to get people like me not to come to these meetings, and I think this is a matter that has to be addressed. You don't need that type of security if they don't need it in Israel. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's move on. The approval of the minutes of the October 25th meeting.
Motion made.
Any changes, suggestions? All in favor? Aye. Okay. On to status of operations, Long Island Railroad. Helena?
Okay, and before I begin, I would like to just comment on our very successful cutover at Jamaica on the weekend of November 6th and 7th. We very much thank our customers who heeded our media campaign, Know Before You Go. They made great travel selections. We would say we were over 100% additional ridership on the Port Washington branch. We were able to smoothly accomplish the cutover and look forward to the benefits of that technology. I also want to comment on September ridership. You'll hear the ridership report, and there's been plenty of media coverage that Metro North exceeded Long Island Railroad's ridership for the month of September. I would like to congratulate Metro North's organization for an outstanding job. They show tremendous capability of handling customers in both directions. I want to pause for a moment because in some respects I'm hoping that many officials on Long Island and Nassau and Suffolk take this as a little bit of a wake-up call about the ability of transit to serve areas that do have growth by the train stations. We, typically call that transit-oriented development. I was disappointed just in recent months a housing proposal was defeated in Huntington that would have co-located housing with a train station, our Huntington station. Long Island continues to struggle with the issue of allowing greater density of development by its train stations. And if you look at, some of the branches and the communities that Metro North is serving, you can see some very high-rise, dense housing, commercial development that will sustain the railroad in both directions, something that is sorely lacking on Long Island. So hopefully as all the planners begin to digest what that means, they'll see that there's some importance to paying attention to perhaps better land use management and taking advantage of our public transit system. With that, I'm going to go to the status of operations, and Ray Kenny.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The operating report for the Long Island Railroad starts on page number 11 of our book. And this is for September. For October. The on-time performance goal for the Long Island Railroad is 95.1%, and the overall on-time performance for October was 93.6%. Our total peak on-time performance was 91.3%, with the AM peak finishing at 92.2% and the PM peak ending at 90.4%. October's total off-peak was 94.5%, with weekday off-peak finishing at 94.4% and the weekend off-peak ending at 94.8%. During October, 99% of the peak trains met the seating standard, and 99.4% of scheduled trips were completed. 185 trains operated more than 15 minutes late. Our year-to-date on-time performance overall, as of October 31st, was 92.5%. The total peak on-time performance 90.8%, with the AM peak at 92.9% and the PM peak at 88.6%. Our total off-peak on-time performance for the year is 93.2%, with weekday off-peak finishing at 92.4% and weekend off-peak ending at 94.6%. During October, we had 2 100% rush hours, one in the AM peak, one in the PM peak. Year-to-date, there have been 38 28 in the AM, and 10 in the PM. Our AM peak car availability was met each day in October, and the total fleet MBDF goal of 110,000 miles was exceeded in September, noting the 1-month lag in reporting. The most significant major event for the month occurred on October 8th. An Amtrak train became disabled at Harold Interlocking during the AM rush hour going in the reverse direction. It affected our reverse peak passenger and equipment train movements given where the train was disabled, eventually congested Penn Station, resulting in 58 late trains and canceled trains, including 43 AM peak trains and 15 off-peak trains. The safety report, the employee accidents are up 6%, customer accidents are down 10%, the total number of rail accidents are down 54%, overall fire incidents are up by 12%. And as Helena mentioned, the Jamaica cut, I would just like to acknowledge the assistance of the MTA police during the cut. And that concludes the report, and I'm ready for any questions anybody may have.
Any questions? Ira?
Yes, last month I had asked about miscellaneous. I see for this month it's lower. It still is for year-to-date. Now it's the second highest. I just wonder if you could provide a list of what... you said, is it mostly weather, or...?
It's mostly weather, but there's also... the numbers have to settle because there's a couple events in there that have to be assigned. It could be...
I mean, but historically it's a great... I mean, even for 2009, it's been great. So I know you take incidents out of it, but for 2000, it's a large number just for 2009. I'm saying just looking at this and trying to determine what's causing delays, where miscellaneous seems to be, was the highest in 2009. It'd be interesting to see what miscellaneous was. If it's weather incidents, then I guess we hit a bad luck, but...
Yeah, it's weather incidents and things like snowstorms that could last for a few days. Then that would get into a lot of delays. It's also outside utilities. If we lose power, we have a power outage that's caused by an outside utility. Different types of incidents like off the right-of-way fires.
I mean, is there a way we can see a list of those?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, okay, that'd be great. The other question I have is in last month there was at least, there's different instances that seem to be the same type. Like one says signal trouble east of Jamaica, loss of supervised systems east of Jamaica. Is that the same?
What's
the difference?
A slight difference, right? The signals themselves, we recall signal trouble. Supervisory system is when the communication system that we use to control the signal system.
And what's done in the Jamaica cutover?
Yeah,
that type of, is that the system that we're talking about when we say supervisory system?
Well, a better example would be the Port Washington branch. The Port Washington branch, there's several different interlockings, and they're controlled from Jamaica. So if we have and we have redundancies, but we still could have a failure of being able to control it from Jamaica, that would be considered supervisory.
Well, the reason why I say it says loss of supervised systems east of Jamaica on 1025 and on 1027, causing quite a number of trains delayed. Did that have any relation to the cutover?
Yeah, that was.
Oh, those two. I mean, those are major. Okay.
Yeah. That particular one was.
Okay. Also, on the diesel fleet, I just noticed there's been a decline. We're not meeting goal again. I wonder if we could have in the next couple of months a report on the progress of the diesel fleet. I know we've done that in the past.
Yes, we'll do an annual report for you on that.
Okay, that'd be great.
But again, you can tell that because it's such a small fleet, one or two incidents will dramatically change the numbers.
I'm happy to say that I have not heard. I'll ask. I'll actually solicit to see what people are saying. But I think maybe there's a lot of efforts to try and deal with the unreliability of the fleet and still provide a level of service that gets people to work reasonably on time, because we haven't been hearing many complaints.
It's interesting.
The bad numbers, but I'll double check on that, because the numbers are pretty awful. But the goal is, if we're providing good service, I don't care if the numbers are bad.
It's one of our major disappointments, the acquisition of the diesel fleet. One of the speakers commented on the reliability of a 42-year-old engine. It reminded me of my mother-in-law's KitchenAid dishwasher, which still runs perfectly from the 1950s. Well, I'm already on my second dishwasher in terms of replacement.
Me too. I bought a KitchenAid and it failed in 7 years. I know someone has an old one that's 40.
Right,
yeah, same thing.
Same thing.
Any other questions on? Okay, financial and ridership.
Good morning. The Long Island Railroad financial report begins on page 24. I'd say the two main points of the financial presentation are, one, in addition to Helena's comments, the long-term ridership. In terms of the short-term, this year, it appears as though ridership may be actually rebounding at the Long Island Railroad, and I'll get into that momentarily. And two, the budget position remains very strong, reflecting the railroad's success in controlling expenses, particularly in straight time, overtime, and materials purchases and inventory. On ridership, I believe each of you have received the joint memo and table from the two railroads. For the month of October, the Long Island Railroad's ridership totaled about 6.8 million. While that was a drop of 0.5% versus last year during October, had it hadn't been for the first phase of the planned Jamaica cutover project, when we lost 99,000 riders, the Long Island Railroad actually would have seen growth of almost 1% for the month of October. That would have been our second month of growth this year. As it stands, even with the cutover project, October was the Long Island Railroad's second best month of the year compared to 2009. Commutation was down 1.1% in October, with about 1,300 less monthly tickets sold than in 2009 October. Non-commutation was up 0.5%, again, even despite the fact that there was one weekend where we had dramatically less ridership due to the cutover project. Year-to-date, the Long Island Railroad's ridership is about 68 million, which is 1.6% below 2009 at the same time, but only 0.6% below the forecast. Commutation was down 2.4% through October, but only 1.3% versus the forecast. And on non-commutation, despite being down 0.4% versus last year, we're beating the forecast by 0.3%. On the budget side, through September, total revenues of $551 million. That's 4.7% unfavorable to the budget, $27 million. However, $25 million of that is related to deferred timing of the East Side Access project and material purchases for the East Side Access project. So there's an accompanying drop of expense in addition to the revenue. Only $2 million of that is related to reduced ridership compared to forecast. On expense, as I mentioned, our success at controlling expenses is, I think, an important theme. Through September, there's $34 million favorable compared to budget. Labor expenses are right on budget. Straight time is almost precisely on budget in terms of straight time spending. Overtime was $200,000 favorable to budget, and I always like to remind everyone that the budget assumed an 11% reduction in overtime spending. So the fact that we're still beating that, I think, is a good sign. The total amount the Long Island Railroad has spent on overtime through September was $68 million, which is $8 million less than it had through this point last year. And overtime hours worked through September are down 193,000 hours compared to 2009 at this point, which is a 12% reduction. Non-labor is $31 million favorable. Again, most of that is related to reduced spending on materials. And that's in large part due to the railroad's inventory management initiative, more closely matching cash purchases with need and inventory that's already in stock. For the month of September, the fare box operating ratio was 47.4%, and year-to-date through September, it was 46%. Excluding the unfunded pension liability, the fare box operating ratio for the Long Island Railroad is 50.2%. That concludes the financial report.
Any questions or comments? Yes, sir. Jim.
Thank you, Mitch. I just wanted to put in a plug for what I think is while the report that you recite on page 25 is good background excellent background on the things that happened and what drove the numbers. I think from my perspective, and I assume the rest of the board, having much of this set out in tabular form with the commentary really supporting that would be useful. I understand that the process of harmonizing the two railroads dealing with these matters is in progress, and just wanted to suggest that might be a good thing to include in your discussions. And on page 26 and 7, again, just putting in a plug for a harmonization in accordance with with the Metro North array of these same numbers, where they do a cash flow section after the net surplus deficit, which basically just adds back depreciation and other non-cash items, so that we get a full sense of what the cash deficit is for the month and the year to date. And I would move in that direction if possible.
I'll continue to work with Kim Porcelain, and we'll continue to try and make the reports more consistent.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Capital plan.
Okay, and the capital program report appears on page 49 in the book. I'm just going to highlight I'm going to highlight the Babylon car wash project. We're about 37% complete with construction of the structure. And just to remind everyone, that is an ERA-funded project. I am, pleased with the progress that we're making on it. And we have recently erected the steel frame. So we continue to evaluate the results of our trip to the Maryland Transit Metro system, where they recently installed a train wash, and we wanted to learn from their experience. And then the rest of our projects remain on schedule.
Any questions regarding capital? Okay.
Okay, we have an information item, I believe, starting on page 53, and that is just a notation about the timetable. We are adding a Port Washington branch train on Friday afternoons, and we'll also use that train on holidays, and that is to accommodate Sabbath observers. By going to the hourly schedule, we found that we were really putting train travelers who wanted to get home earlier at a disadvantage. We've added back a 3:19 p.m. that arrives in Port Washington at 4:03, and there had been, a number of letters I had received on that, and we're pleased to be able to respond to it. We continue to watch the impact of the service reduction on the Port Washington branch to determine if we have any other trains that are impacted by crowding. Any questions on the timetable?
Okay.
And then just as a note, you'll see the annual committee charter review is in the book. If you have any questions on that, we'd be happy to answer those as well. It just restates what our charter is.
Yeah, we are required each year to look at it. I didn't see any changes that had to be made in that context, but unless any of the other board members has something they want to add or change in that regard. Okay. Metro North, Howard.
Thank you, good morning. Let me first start. I wanted to just speak 1 minute on the achievement on Metro North's ridership. And I think that for the Metro North committee members, you've heard their story over the years. For some of the other members, you may not be as familiar with it. But the real accomplishment has been that since 1983 that we've been able to almost double the ridership at Metro North over that 30-year time period. And that's really the single most important accomplishment. And to do that has taken a huge amount of effort of people who are both here, the current team, as well as people who've retired, who were involved in it, and it's going way back from making the customer the center point of Metro North and all its decisions, and always being concerned about customers and bringing them onto the railroad. So we're continuing to grow. We're looking to reach where we can say we've actually doubled, since we're not almost. We're almost there. I think, as Helena pointed out very well, the interrelationship of land use and transportation is critical. The transportation gives the opportunity for the land use decisions to be made and to encourage economic development. And when you look at our territory, be it Stamford, Connecticut, Greenwich, Connecticut, White Plains, New Rochelle, you can go up and down the line, you can see the economic benefits that have been generated by the railroad through all the improved service. So from both our, from standpoint of Metro North and, as Helena mentioned, Long Island, we continue to work to make the rail service valuable to the entire region and to help promote economic growth, because it really is the engine for economic growth. So with that, I think we are ready to move on to our operating report, and Bob Lieblau.
Good morning, everyone. The status of the operation is outlined on page 60 in your agenda book. In October, Metro North operated at 96.9%, which was below our goal of 97.7%. And all of our categories were below goal for the month. Of the 31 days in October, we only operated below 95% 3 times and once below 90. We had 3 significant events that accounted for that. On October 1st, we had a torrential rainstorm which caused delays on all 3 lines, in New Haven, Harlem, and the Hudson, and we ran at 79.4% for that particular day, which was a bad way to start the month. On October 15th, we had a slip slide on the New Haven line and on the Harlem line. We ran 94.1, and on October the 29th, we had police action over on the New Haven line, which resulted in a system-wide OTP of 93%. 549 trains operated late out of a scheduled 17,681. Overall, for the month, the Hudson line ran at 97.8%, the Harlem line ran at 97.7%, and the New Haven line, which was the lowest, ran at 95.8%. In addition to the 3 events that took place during the course of the month, we've got a lot of track work going on the New Haven line, a lot of catenary work going on. In fact, on August the 30th, I believe it was, we started a 2-track outage between 248 and 255, which is 255 is up in Bridgeport, up on the east end. This 2-track outage will plague us for the next 2 years while Connecticut replaces wire and 5 fixed bridges in that block. So it's not an excuse, it's something we have to work with, which we will continue to do. 99.8% of our trips were completed, and 98.6% of our trains operated with a full consist. A special note, the Hudson line posted 100% consist compliance for the 3rd straight month. And year-to-date, our on-time performance is at 97.8%. On the west of Hudson, which is on page 65 in your agenda book, west of Hudson service operated at 95% in October. This was below our goal of 96.3. 83 trains operated late out of 1,661. The Pascack Valley operated at 98.2% in October, which was above our goal of 97, and the Port Jervis line operated at 90.5 in October, which was below our goal of 95.2. That was mainly due to the track work that was going on throughout the course of the month. That work has since been completed, and the numbers have picked back up. In October, 99.9% of our trips were completed west of Hudson. MDBF, page 64. For the month of September, our MDBF was at 111,026, slightly below our goal of 115,000. 15,000. However, year-to-date, our MDBF is at 140,083 for all fleets. For the month of September, our M2 fleet, we had a number of repeat intermittent failures on a number of cars on the M2s, and our triplets and aging fleet we continue to have some reliability issues with those. And that's the extent of the report. If there are any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Questions from board members? If not, thank you.
Next we have Kim and then Bob.
Good morning. The financial report for September compares the detailed results against the July plan and begins on page 68. The details are all provided in your report, and I will just provide some major highlights. Year-to-date September financial results remain consistent and strong. The month of September net deficit of $39.5 million is favorable versus the July plan by 27%. The year-to-date September net deficit of $451.5 million is favorable versus July plan by 6%. This is twice the year-to-date deficit favorability of August, which was 3%. However, if you take a closer look, I'd like to highlight that farebox revenues continues to show additional improvement above July plan at 1%, which is consistent with last period. Non-reimbursable expenditures before the non-cash liability adjustments also continues to show lower spending than July plan by 2%, which is consistent. The real variance and change occurred in the non-cash liability adjustments, reflecting a $14 million favorable variance in September. This is a non-cash other post-employment benefit adjustment for liability accrual on benefits earned by current employees, which was reduced by $9 million when compared to the July plan. There was an actuarial valuation for the other post-employment benefits adjusted downward to reflect current conditions of lower night shift Medicare Part B dental and vision premium costs compared to the current trends that were factored into the forecast. Year-to-date cash deficit is $265 million and is favorable to the July plan by $38 million or 12.5%. This is also consistent with year-to-date August results of a positive 12%. Most of the favorable variance in subsidies is coming from MTA of 39 positive variance and $3 million on CDOT, in addition with changes in cash balances. And to recap this report, on page 82, you will also see that the year-to-date September fair operating ratio continues to increase and is now 58.8%. This is 1.8% favorable against the July plan. 20% of this favorability is due to our higher farebox revenues, and 80% is due to improvements in lower expenditures. On a year-to-date basis, September cost per passenger continues to decrease and is $11.16, favorable to the July plan by 35 cents. Once again, 20% of this favorability is due to increased ridership, and 80% is due to lower expenditures. Bob will now provide his report on ridership, and we can respond to any questions.
Good morning. The September ridership report is in your book starting on page 83. On Friday, you were emailed out the preliminary numbers for October. As Mark did, I'm just going to summarize the preliminary October numbers. For the month of October, Metro-North ridership totaled just under 7.1 million rides. Ridership grew 3.7% in October of 10 versus the October of 09. Commutation ridership grew 2.2%, while non-com ridership grew 6% in the month of October 2010. Overall year-to-date, commutation ridership is now up 0.2% compared to 2009 through October. Non-com ridership has grown 2.9% for the year, and overall ridership for 2010 is 1.3% ahead of the same point in 2009. Any questions?
Questions from board members on either ridership or financials? Susan?
Not a question so much as an observation. And I have to look at the numbers more carefully to say this correctly. Howard mentioned that since 1983, the ridership in Metro-North has doubled. And certainly that's an achievement that's amazing when you think about it. But I think you have to put that in context. We've been going through a very bad time, as you all know, and one of the things we've been looking at is the head count. And the most amazing thing to me about doubling that ridership is that you have not increased your head count. That's a credit to the management of Metro-North, but I think more than that, it's a credit to the workforce. The Metro-North workforce really has an attitude towards productivity and a we can do this ethic that's amazing. And to be able to double your service and your ridership, provide vastly more trains than you did in 1983 when I was riding trains, and do so without changing substantially the headcount is really an amazing feat. So I do think we have to look at it from that perspective. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Susan. I think you're right that that's been an effort of all the workers at Metro-North. It's also, the other thing I do want to mention is part of that, too, has been the great benefit of the capital program, which gave us funding, which allowed huge savings, particularly in the 1980s, in productivity. So that combined with what you've described on the workforce work ethic as well as on the management side of managing the railroad leads up to that achievement. And it's one that everyone at Metro-North is very proud of.
As we all should be. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Mitch?
Yes.
As a representative of the employees at Metro-North, we thank you for the credit you extended to us, and my assumption is that we'll be rewarded in collective bargaining for those improvements. However, beyond my sincere belief that that be true, and while I do recognize everything you said about density, I yield to no one in my belief in the importance of density, population density to transportation efficiency. I think you really have, in a sense, maybe you're not giving yourselves enough credit for the policy things you can control. In effect, you can't really control what the density considerations are that the politicians and the communities demand. And even areas which you consider very successful, and I consider very successful, like Stamford, which I believe is the home of the new governor of Connecticut, is the center of Fairfield County, which is one of the most, is also the poster child for the most sprawl that's occurred in Connecticut at the same time. So there is a character to the same development that's not really transit-oriented development. It just spurs real estate values, which, when the communities make the wrong decisions, do tend to sprawl the areas out too. But again, these aren't things you can control. And when you look at the variance here in this, I couldn't help but think that we're looking at many of the same statistics. That when you're looking at the greater efficiency of Metro-North, beyond the substantial efforts of the workforce and productivity of the workforce and the management, you also have a long-term aggressive, perhaps aggressive is not the correct word, but I sometimes struggle with words, believe it or not, but the pursuit of the reverse commute market. And in that sense, your partnering with the communities has been a much different character than what's occurred in the Long Island, where the politicians have purposely diminished capacity utilization and purposely denied you the reverse commute market. And the growth in the reverse commute market here during this period of time that Bob just mentioned is enormous, but it didn't just happen this month. This happened over a period of 10, 15 years. The same 10 or 15 years where a certain coterie of politicians in Long Island have squatted on mainline third track and really denied other people the right to utilize the railroad in reverse commute. Of course, Long Island achieved that by pushing those people onto Long Island bus, which now they're cutting the legs out from under. So perhaps now there'll be an alignment of the planets where, and perhaps with a change of government in the New York State Senate, that there will be an alignment of planets where the mainline third track will be allowed to progress and commuters will be allowed to use the seats on the way back to Long Island, which will increase your fare box recovery ratio and achieve all of the standards that Metro-North has achieved. And I'm sorry for my long-windedness, but these are very complex things, and I held my tongue through 4 presentations. Thank you.
Just the wrong words in that context.
Let me. Can I just,
Yes, Ira, go ahead.
I know. I would just say ditto, but not completely. Regarding reverse commute, I just want to note that for an hour and a half, you cannot travel on the main line eastbound. That's very painful for people who have to travel that way. I mean, that's a simple fact, and it is painful for Long Island. All counties of Long Island. It's an island, and we need more capacity. And how we get there has to be something that I think everyone has to address, and that includes not just localities, but the railroad and even the state as a whole. And I would hope, the Commuters Council, as everyone knows, strongly supports third track and wishes we could move ahead with that. And maybe Norman's right, that's something that we could see when funding is available, but right now we don't. So I would add to Norman's comments, the Long Island Railroad certainly, Long Island Commuters Council strongly supports third track, increased capacity on the railroad, which is direly needed, not even just for increased capacity, but certainly for service quality, because often many of the delays are resulting in congestion. Anytime there's a problem on the Long Island Railroad, we wind up with more than a few trains delayed, and that's a problem that has to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ira. I think it's both a combination of third track where we don't have third track and second track where we don't have second track, and when you put those two things together, it reduces the ability of Long Island to be able to provide the service it needs. Metro North was able to build an additional track over this period of time, and Long Island has not been. And that, while that's not the only factor, it is one factor, I think, in this context. But there are a variety of other factors as we go along, but there's no question that the increase in the reverse commute on Metro North has been significantly greater than on Long Island. And there are a variety of reasons for that, some demographic, some community, some capacity, that all have to be looked at in that context. Susan?
I would be remiss not to point out that west of Hudson suffers from the same issues pertaining to single track and lack of service through the middle of the afternoon. An hour and a half would be a lovely time for me. 3 hours is more like it. So.
Yes, we can all understand. Well, maybe when we now get some of the high-speed rail money that nobody else wants, we can do all of that, right, Howard and Helena?
Absolutely.
We can. That would be a second track west of Hudson and second track in Suffolk County would be a very nice combination of projects that could be done and could be done quickly by MTA, and we can only hope.
Provide instant ridership.
That's right, instant ridership. Okay, capital program,
Capital
Howard?
program, Tim?
Good morning. The capital report begins on page 94, and real quickly, I'd just like to point out that we have achieved substantial completion at the Ossining Station. So Ossining, Scarborough, Phillips Manor are complete and fully open to the public. In the South Bronx, the Mott Haven to Fordham Drainage Project, we have completed all of the DEP hookups. So all of the major track work that we're doing is completed there, and that project went very well, and hopefully we'll see some long-term improvements. And lastly, we have begun the contract for the design of the platform widening at Fordham, which has been an ongoing deal. We worked with Fordham University to get a little bit of property. We're going to widen that platform, which will make the Fordham reverse commute a much better experience for our riders.
That project has been discussed for a while, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, we have discussed that. There are actually two projects at Fordham. One is a station improvement project to improve the flows in the building and to get people in. This is the second project, which will double the width of the platform. Right now, because we were talking about the reverse commute, we have so many people at that station. It was never built for those volumes that it's not only not a less than optimal experience for the customer. We have trouble getting the trains out of Fordham Station because there's so many people and they're coming down from the staircases. So now by having a wide platform, we'll be able to load the trains much more quickly, and that's actually one of our major capacity constraints in all of Metro North, is that one track heading outbound during the reverse commute. So this will be a major step forward. There was another project at Fordham. We've done a lot of work with New York City Transit, who deserves a lot of credit for what's happened there, and with the city to also redo Fordham Plaza. And so when that's done, that'll be another major improvement to improve the connectivity between the buses and the railroad.
Great. Yes, Jim?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Just three quick things. First, Mike, congratulations on the Ossining Station. That's my home station, and it's been a sad place to commute from for many years, and it is in first-class shape now, and it built up to Metro North standards, and we really want to thank the railroad for getting that done as part of this larger program. Secondly, I wonder if you could give us just a quick update on the Peekskill, the improvements, and thirdly, I noted some time ago on the Grand Central elevators that the nameplates were indecipherable, and I was hoping that we had found some way to...
You're the second one who's noticed that. But we'll talk. Tim will explain that. We're fixing that.
Thank you.
Well, Peekskill, we just started, we just awarded that contract, and it's going to go until October of 2012. That's stairways and platform and canopy work up there. But you should start to see real activities probably in the spring when the construction season starts.
And the locals have been informed and are involved in the process to a certain extent?
As far as I know, and I will make sure, I know that there was some concern, and we met with them more than once to make sure that we were communicating properly. And with regard to the elevators, unfortunately, it has taken a lot longer than we would want it to. The infamous E nomenclature on the elevators was kind of unknown to anybody about what E stood for, and we could not find any explanation in any of our records, and we've decided to change the E to a B for balcony, and we've ordered letters and signs and whatnot, and we should start to see those being applied right after Thanksgiving. The elevators in Hall D have all been completed, and those will be the first ones that have they'll have new directories posted, and the elevators themselves will be retrofitted fairly quickly. One at a time, we'll take those elevators out of service and replace the E's on the dials. Every floor's got a dial, and they've all got to be addressed. And it's not something that can be just done from the outside. Unfortunately, the elevator's got to be out of service because you have to get in behind there. But hopefully you'll start to see this come. You'll see the results over the next month fairly quickly, I think, and then as each elevator is put into service, they'll be put into service with the new markings.
Good. I'm sorry, but one other quick thing: the capital program goals. It looks like you've got a lot of work to wrap up in the last month of the year. Is it high level of confidence in that? On page 99.
For the commitments, we're only looking at about 70% this year for a number of reasons, with getting funding and getting project justifications in place. Completions, we're looking to get 93%. We will get that work done in the next month and a half. And the closeouts, the big one, most of that $308 million is Harmon's shop work, which is substantially completed about a year ago, and we will get that closeout next month. So we're very comfortable there.
Thank you.
Thank you, and we could only hope at Penn Station we had a balcony to have an E for.
We'll give you the E's, though.
You give us the E's. We can get the I'd rather have the balcony than the elevator. That's right, in that context. Okay, safety?
Good morning. I'll be summarizing the safety statistics through September, beginning on page 100 in your books. Our employee injuries are down in 2010 by 20.1%. Reportable injuries are down 10%. Our lost time and restricted duty frequency index is down to 1.94, an 11.6% decrease. Our total customer injuries are down 5.8% in 2010, and our contractor injuries are down 43.3% in 2010. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Great report. Excellent.
Okay. In the information items, the operating budget, which we distributed,
Yep.
the inventory report, and the charter review.
Any questions on any of those aspects? Okay.
Then we come to, we have two action items. Bob McLager, could you speak to those, please?
The first one is in your book on page 112. It's a staff summary requesting your approval to accept a CMAQ grant being provided through New York State DOT for $300,000. Over the last 15 years, we've gotten about $2 million in CMAQ grants from NYSDOT to help support our Connecting Services program. These basically pay for certain kinds of activities, the marketing, putting up signage at stops, producing little schedules, and also funding the Guaranteed Ride Home program. It's been very successful in getting people to use all these different programs. And this just continues our relationship and our working relationship with NYSDOT and continues that funding for another year. On page 113, there's another staff summary regarding unit ticket pricing with Westchester County B-Line. Really, there's two different things we're asking for the board's approval. First, with regard to the regular B-Line unit ticket, the joint bus rail monthly, Westchester County is raising the price of the unit ticket in conjunction with a fare increase that it goes along with all the other MetroCard systems. As a result of that, our subsidy arrangement with them, our share of the subsidy, which is the subsidy split 50-50 between the county and Metro North, our per-ticket subsidy will go up, and we're asking approval to increase our subsidy of the ticket and with regard to the new pricing scheme. Also, there's the White Plains shuttles. These are shuttles that are distributor shuttles that bring reverse commuters that we've been talking about to their places of employment, people who can't walk from the station. Here we're asking for the board's approval to, again, in conjunction with other pricing going up. Here Metro North sets the price as well as we subsidize the ticket. So we're asking for your approval to have a comparable increase in the price of the shuttle unit ticket and raise our per-ticket subsidy.
Any questions? Motion?
Yeah, how does that relate to the B-Line itself? You're talking about raising the shuttle ticket. I'm confused.
Okay. Out of the White Plains train station, there are a series of shuttles that go primarily to the Platinum Mile. They're dedicated shuttles. They just serve the people coming off the train and going to the office parks along the Platinum Mile for the most part. So it's a service that was started by Westchester County with Metro North's involvement to serve the reverse commute market. The pricing is different from a regular B-Line. The monthly price is going to go up from $29.50 to $34.50, which is somewhat less than the regular B-Line price, which is going up from $44.50 to $52. So it's priced attractively to try to make the train/bus attractive to people coming up from the Bronx and Manhattan. So it's a different service with a different pricing.
Thank you.
Well, Jim moves. Susan, any questions on either of these two items? All in favor? Aye. Okay. Police report, Chief.
Good morning. For October, we did have a spike in crime. We were up 43 versus 29, a total of 19 crimes. Year-to-date, we're up for the whole system 26 crimes. It's an 11% increase, 272 versus 246. October reflected the year-to-date increase mainly in robberies and larcenies. We had 9 robberies versus 1 in the same period last year. 5 of those robberies were on the East End Long Island Railroad and 3 on Metro North. Of those 5, there were no discernible patterns. We had 2 on the Babylon line, at the Baldwin Station, although they were not related. We had one on the main line in Wyandanch. We had one in Jamaica with an arrest, one on Atlantic Terminal with an arrest. On the Metro North, we had 2 incidents on the New Haven line, State Street and South Norwalk Station. Both of those closed by an arrest. We had one on the Hudson line on Marble Hill. The additional one was on the Staten Island rails. Year to date, we've had a total for the whole system 48 robberies versus 28 last year. Of those, we've had 26 arrests. 33 of those robberies were affecting Metro North and Long Island Railroad. The other ones were on Staten Island. For the larcenies, I just want to mention we were up 24 versus 10. We are up 10 larcenies for the whole system for the year, 171 versus 161, a 6% increase, although we did spike in October. We had 3 incidents in the Ronkonkoma station, all closed by arrest. Those were car break-ins. We had a rash of those last year, and every once in a while we seem to get a spike out there. It's a very, very large station, and we do patrol that often, and we put a lot of personnel assigned to Ronkonkoma. On the Metro North end, we had 6 copper larcenies on the Hudson line. We arrested 3 individuals for copper theft, and then they confessed to 5 other incidents which occurred out of the period. So we took 6 larcenies, but they were all closed out by arrest. If there's any question?
Excuse me, what's the difference between a larceny and a robbery?
Force. Mainly it's robbery is going to be property taken by force, where a larceny could be a stolen credit card or something of a value of over $1,000.
Thank you.
Okay.
Jim?
As you probably know, we've received a lot of publicity over our increase in crime on the Metro North, and I've looked at it, and there's no explainable reason why these happen. Otherwise, we would prevent them.
Sure.
So, but I look at the number of, in October we had 21 instances, and we had 7.1 million rides. My question is there any relationship with other services throughout the country, or maybe even the world, as to the number of incidences compared to the number of riders?
Yeah, no, we don't really have any other transportation authority to compare us with. You know, we are the largest, and we average less than 1 crime a day with the ridership of over 500,000. If you look at New York City Transit ridership, or between 4 and 5 million, they're doing about less than 7 crimes a day. So, you know, I think both systems are doing very well, but it's tough to draw comparisons. Most of the robberies that I mentioned, they're off-peak hours. You know, so the high peak hours, we're not having the instances, and a lot of those are late at night as well.
So you would say that, based upon those statistics, that the MTA family does very well on crime prevention?
I would absolutely, even though it sounds self-serving, I'd say we're doing very well. Yeah.
Thank you.
Close most of the cases. But is there a direct quote? You said there isn't maybe a reason for this, especially robberies go up when the economy.
You know, there really isn't a correlation between. Most people aren't going to lose a job and go on unemployment and you know, go out and commit a crime. There really isn't a correlation. If you look at 2008's numbers, we're about even where we were in 2008 to where we are now. It's just an aberration. It's a spike, but we'll keep a close eye on it.
Thank you. Capital Construction, Michael.
Good morning. East Side Access, we're moving on it, continue to move aggressively on prosecuting the work, although I must say that we have continuous challenges in the construction, design, management, and the bond keeps us very busy. Currently, just as a point, we are about to, in the first quarter, actually the beginning of the year, March 2011, we'll award the Queen Structure contract. It's been advertised already, and approval on the Amtrak design on Stage 1 packages have been secured, all but one specific contract that we expect to receive it the end of November, beginning of December. Last month, I presented at CPAC our critical path projects, and they're both in Manhattan and Queens. The Manhattan, the tunneling, and the Queens, the Harold interlocking. And these are clearly for us areas of concerns, and we're currently working on mitigating strategies. Unfortunately, some of the information that is presented today is not as clear as it ought to have been, and we have not had an opportunity to actually make sure that we are correlating it with the CPAC report. I expect to come back in December and have it appropriately presented. So basically, that's about it.
Any questions? Mike, I think in December you had mentioned at CPAC last month also that you were going to discuss the variety of improvements the Long Island Railroad gets from parts of East Side Access construction before the entire project is finished.
That's correct. I actually had that. I was, quite frankly, I did not have an opportunity also to vet it with Elena, and I decided not to do that until I had that opportunity.
That's fine. But at some point, we will come back to the committee.
Yes, I'm expecting to do that. But
Okay.
I thought that, and actually I have something that I've done for Metro North as well, so I needed to make sure that that's vetted with the railroads other than me going out and presenting something that may make no sense.
Yep, I don't understand, because there are substantial benefits the railroad gets way before 2016, and we want to be able to show people that aspect of it as construction continues in that regard.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Procurements. The page 126. Long Island Railroad is first. Page 129.
Yes. There are 3 procurements in this month's package totaling $602,920. The first is a non-competitive procurement that covers Metro North, New York City Transit, and Long Island Railroad for the purchase of rail lubrication and friction management systems, and that's in the amount of $375,000, and we request a vote on that.
Second. Any questions? Yes, Ira.
Yeah, just quickly, I just noticed that it's for all 3 agencies, and Long Island Railroad is the most, although New York City Transit's the largest. I'm just wondering, is that because Long Island Railroad has a lot of this type of equipment, and New York City Transit uses other equipment, or?
We are also going through a process of upgrading some of our rail lubrication systems. So I think you see, some new installations coming in this procurement as well.
Is some of this paid from capital, or then? I mean,
it's all operating.
No, this
it's
is
all
operating.
operating, even though it's an up. It still is considered.
Well, a lot of it is the actual lubricant, which wouldn't be capital eligible.
Okay. All right. I mean, it's just New York City Transit. I didn't even realize Long Island Railroad used this type of equipment. I know New York City Transit does as a sound reduction effort. But okay. All right. Maybe I should ask Transit what they're doing. Okay.
We're gonna. That motion is in relation to the entire the $552,000, so it includes the Metro North and New York City Transit portions on that project. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Okay, and then the 2 competitive items. One includes check cashing services at Long Island Railroad for $49,920, and a request that the board adopt a resolution declaring competitive bidding impractical for the rehabilitation of 3 bridges that are in disrepair on the Montauk Branch. And we request a vote.
Motion to approve. Second. Any questions on either of those 2? All in favor? Aye. Okay. Howard?
Up to us. Okay, we have 3 procurements this month. They're all multi-agency procurements led by Metro North. a total not to exceed value of about $55.82 million. The first is a non-competitive one with the New York State Industries for the Disabled, which is to provide short-term temporary personnel services. This is for all the agencies. It includes office administrative support, passenger counting surveys, and those types of activities. Do you want to act that one first?
Sure.
Okay.
Let's do that one second. Any questions? Yes, Jim.
Just would like to thank the speaker for his comments, background on this. I think it's a wonderful program that we're undertaking here, and I heartily endorse it.
Good.
And I think MTA and its agencies have been with this for a number of years in that regard.
Yes.
And this is just a continuation and expansion of it, which is of great benefit to everyone.
Right.
So let's vote on that one first, if we could. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Okay, then we have two competitive ones. The first one is for different, this is a pre-qualification for as-needed consulting services to support IT projects, and then the variety of different IT projects that are laid out in the material. What's important here, again, this is a not-to-exceed contract for a 5-year period of $32.37 million. It's broken down by each agency is involved in this. This basically pre-qualifies the people, and then the actual, before any of this work is done, it'll be going through the agency-wide IT rationalization cost efficiency process that is run by the MTA, where all the CIOs meet and they talk about different projects to make sure they're good cost-effective investments. The second one is also a multi-agency one for IT, and it's for training services. Again, to pre-qualify people for training services. It's a not-to-exceed value of $6.65 million for this work as well across all the agencies.
Second. Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Capital Construction.
Yes, we have one competitive contract for $417,000 and to be awarded to Aring Inc. Work is for the integration of the Penn Station legacy cameras into the ISS, so this is part of the completion of the ISS contract. Once this work is completed, Long Island Railroad Penn Station legacy cameras will be viewable at the MTA PD C3 Center in Long Island City.
Which is a very important aspect. Second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. If there's nothing else, we motion to adjourn. Second. I'll see you next month. Thank you very much.